Hey guys, Shadowz here, welcome back to another Gears of War 4 video. Today this is going to be my best controller setting tutorial guide video, going over each option, explaining what they do in game as well as sharing what I personally use. Gears of War 4 being a third person shooter, your controller settings are one of the most important aspects of the game itself because it's what you use to control your character overall. Therefore, making sure that each setting is perfect for you will generally help you out in game. Now, while controller settings are all down to personal preference, there are a few things that you can do to make sure you are using the best controller settings possible. Starting with the sensitivity, there are 3 sensitivity options or settings that all control different things. Look sensitivity is for how quickly you can turn your character, which is the base sensitivity. I would say is used most of the time in the game itself. Target sensitivity is for how quickly you can turn your character when targeting or aiming a weapon. The last option is the zoom sensitivity, which is for how quickly you can turn your character when zoomed in with a weapon, which only applies to the longshot sniper, the snub pistol, and the bolt-on pistol, being the only weapons in the game that have the ability to zoom in by simply clicking the right analog stick while aiming. Sensitivity is very important because it will define your ability to control your character in the game itself. The best sensitivity is a mix of speed and control. Having a higher sensitivity is better for you, but only to the point when you can control it. The best way to find out the best sensitivity for you personally is to simply play the game until you feel either each of the 3 sensitivity options are too slow or too fast. The moment you question anything when it comes to sensitivity speed, you should either lower or higher it by 1 until it feels perfect. Next up, aim acceleration is a new setting within Gears of War that adjusts how quickly your character accelerates while turning, which affects your look sensitivity overall. For example, if you feel like your look sensitivity is perfect when playing, but you feel like the turning on the sensitivity is too fast, you can slow down how fast you accelerate when turning by lowering your aim acceleration. I personally feel like aim acceleration is something you should not be changing at all and focusing only on look sensitivity, but the option is there if you do want to change it. Next up, we have the inner dead zone and the outer dead zone. Again, new setting options within a Gears of War game. Both of these work together and are how sensitive your character is based on any movements with your thumbsticks, depending on the dead zones you have set. Dead zones are when your thumbstick gets to a maximum and it doesn't change in speed anymore. The next important controller setting is omnidirectional roll, which allows rolling in any direction, such as diagonal, or restricting rolling to cardinal directions, being left, right, forward, and backwards. Then lastly, we have the control scheme setting, one of the, if not most important setting in your personal control settings available. As a new player in Gears of War, you'll most likely begin with using the default control scheme, which you might think is the best way to go. However, using the default control scheme is actually a disadvantage in itself because you're limiting your ability from taking advantage of the movement system in this game, as you can't multitask taking cover and turning at the same time on default because your thumb can only be either on the A button or the right analog stick, not the both at the same time, unless you're using a different control scheme. I would personally recommend playing with one of the following control schemes. First up is Claw, which it actually does use the default controls. However, it involves holding the controller slightly different by bending your index finger downwards to be able to press A while keeping your thumb on the right analog stick. Playing Claw, while being a good option for a few out there, is actually somewhat uncomfortable for others like myself who then have the tournament control scheme available. The tournament control scheme is fairly new, only introduced in the last 2 Gears of War games, but I'm calling it the Gears of War bumper jumper that switches the A button and the LB bumper, so you use the movement with the LB while being able to keep your thumb on the right analog stick. Tournament is a control scheme that a lot of players who have been playing Gears of War for years on default find hard to use because they are so used to playing on default already. However, if you can learn to use tournament controls, I believe it's a huge advantage that will improve your gameplay. Now that is explaining the important controller settings that are available in this game. Like I mentioned mentioned, mostly everything is personal preference, but this is my controller settings that I use and feel like are the best controller settings for me. For sensitivity, I have everything on 22. The reason for this is because, like I mentioned earlier, 22 is a sensitivity option that I feel like is fast enough, but to the point where I can control it. The new settings being aim acceleration and the dead zones I have on default because I feel like my 22 sensitivities are perfect for me in all aspects of the game. I have vibration turned off, which is only a change I have made in the last good few years because I noticed sometimes the rumbling of the controller vibrating would affect my aim when trying to hit shots, so I just began to play with it switched off and I noticed an improvement. I have omnidirection roll turned on just because you should never limit yourself in how many directions you can roll in. Then finally, I actually do play on the tournament control scheme as, like I again mentioned earlier, default is a disadvantage in itself and just claw is just a bit too uncomfortable for me. So playing on tournament and getting used to it is one of the best controller setting changes I've ever made since playing Gears of War for 10 years back in 2006, as now I can actually take cover while turning, which allows my movement to be what it is today. So there you have it, my best controller settings guide tutorial video covering all of the different setting options available and what I personally use. Finding the best controller settings is a personal preference, so if you ever do question anything from sensitivity to having vibration turned on, always play around with any of the settings available until you feel like fully you are comfortable in your gameplay. Give this video a thumbs up and share if it helps you out and you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you aren't already. Thanks for watching, and as always, I shall see you on the next one.